Dan and Amy, good morning. For those who don't believe that those assembled at COP26 take environmentalism as their religion, science as their God, even junk science as their God, more appropriately. Before COP26, there was an October 4th meeting at the Vatican, presided over by Pope Francis. And it brought together leaders from the world's great religions to essentially announce they're converting to the First United Church of climate change. It had all the solemnity of a mass. Take a listen.
That will be held in Glasgow in November this year. As we begin this meeting, we shall listen to the reading of the executive summary of the appeal, while the representatives of the world religions come forth and sign the document, marking their commitment and their call to COP26.
Do you hear the church music?
Yes, in the background, and that they're going to come forward, like you come forward to take the sacrament.
Yes,
and to pledge yourself to God.
Exactly. And so then you had these two readers get up and begin to provide a narrative while there was this procession of religious leaders that came up to sign this document. And I rather than just hearing them, I pulled a TikTok video from a woman who shot some of this and offered some commentary as it was happening, because it's just such a great every woman perspective. Take a listen.
To all of you tuning in through television, through Catholic TV, I will continue later. Between faith leaders and scientists, we come together, united, to raise awareness of the unprecedented challenges that threaten our beautiful common home.
What in the Hollywood blockbuster?
Our faiths and spiritualities teach a duty to care for the human family and for the environment in which it lives. We are deeply interdependent with each other and with the natural world.
This is crazy.
We are not limitless masters of our planet and its resources. Multiple crises facing humanity are ultimately linked to a crisis of values.
Oh, it's getting
ethical
real.
And spiritual.
Oh, wow. It's real.
We are caretakers of the natural environment with the vocation to care for it for future generations. And the moral obligation to cooperate in the healing of the planet. We must address these challenges using the knowledge of science and the wisdom of religion.
Yikes!
We must think long-term for the sake of the whole of humanity. Now is the time to take transformative action as a common response.
It's a movie! We're living in a movie! We're living in a movie! Oh my God! Oh my God!
We need a framework of hope and courage. But we also need to change the narrative of development.
Why so monotone?
Climate change is a grave threat. We advocate for common but differentiated climate action at all levels.
What the
Is this that sounded like Hunger Games.
When you said it's like a funeral dirge, yeah, it's a funeral dirge for humanity. I love that she picks up on how monotone it is. It's intended to just sort of bore a hole into your head and replace the gray matter with, this agitprop. And this is, again, hosted at the Vatican.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So just so we get a sense.
Gave me the chills. I mean, that was so creepy.
A sense of the depth of the zealotry we're addressing here. For more on this, to help us address that zealotry, please be joined again by Patrick Moore, who is a co-founder of GreenPeace. He's also the author of Fake Invisible Catastrophes and Threats of Doom. Patrick, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, Amy.
How about that? The world's religious leaders genuflecting at the Vatican before the climate change diktats, before trotting off to Glasgow to listen to Boris Johnson say, we're sitting on a James Bond doomsday device.
It's really quite something. I mean, what are these people actually seeing that I'm not seeing? It's raining here. Is that bad? Today, sunny somewhere else. There's a windstorm coming up down in the south, but everything else seems to be fairly normal, except for the political scene in your great country seems to have turned on its head a little bit last night.
Yeah, well,
Oh, yeah.
right, and and part of that is wrapped up in the climate change zealotry contained in that $4 trillion legislation that Biden and the Democrat Socialists are trying to move through Congress. But I mean, just commentary on Glasgow more generally, and where we're at with the threat posed by changing climate versus what you're hearing from these world leaders, both political and ostensibly religious.
Well, the big threat is the threat of destroying the entire Western economy on the basis of fake news. It's just so unbelievable that people, I don't know what they think they are seeing or what they think is going on, but it's just weather. And there's always been weather, and they're making it out now as if weather is something new that we've never had before. There's nothing unusual about the weather. They say it's getting hotter. That might have something to do with the fact that we're building huge cities. It does tend to get a bit warmer in the cities, and what's wrong with that if you're in a cold country like Canada or Britain or Germany or Russia? On the other hand, 40% of the world's population live in China, Russia, and India combined, and they are having nothing to do with this. They pay a bit of lip service to it to be friendly, but they are moving forward with their economies, and they are basing their energy on fossil fuels and nuclear, which is the logical way to go. Indeed, replacing even more of the fossil fuels with nuclear. Most people don't realize that buildings use 40% of all the energy that we produce in the world. Buildings don't move like cars and planes and trucks, so you can actually run them on electricity 100%, and that can be produced by a nuclear reactor. And the people in the U.S. don't even seem to know that they have over 90 nuclear reactors running every day of the year 24/7, and no one has ever been injured by one in the whole history. 3 Mile Island was as close as it got, and actually nobody received any radiation above a normal background level from that incident, and they made it out as if it was some catastrophe.
Yeah, but
that's
nuclear,
the only thing that's ever happened.
yeah, nuclear
Canada
reactors
has
are the enemy
8 or
right now,
10
though.
nuclear reactors too, and they're producing electricity every day, and these people are against the only alternative to fossil fuels. And well, how are you going to win if you think you can run the country on wind and solar? It's just never going to happen. In UK, actually, one of the big stories this morning is the UK had to fire up some coal plants yesterday because the wind stopped blowing. And that's how COP26 is running on coal.
Well, so the nuclear reactor is under attack. I know there's one in Illinois they want to shut down, but then you're right. How are they going to fuel those buildings? How is it going to work?
Well, it's not going to work with wind and solar because it's only available about 25% of the time. And there's the other 75% to consider. So the pipe dream that we can actually run the whole system on wind and solar will fail and is beginning to fail as we ramp those technologies up to where they become actually a danger to the ability to keep the lights on, because they just don't work all the time. And it's time to get off that bandwagon, and I think maybe people are starting to wake up to that. I'm not sure. It's such a nice idea that we could run the world on wind and solar energy. But the truth of the matter is, in order to make the steel and the aluminum and all the other parts for those wind and solar farms, you have to have fossil fuels to do that, or nuclear energy to do that. They don't even produce enough energy to build themselves. never mind to power the whole world. So this is where we've got to make a fundamental shift. Instead of using billions and billions of taxpayers' money to subsidize wind and solar, we should probably go back to the privatization of electricity with good environmental controls and let the financial system figure out what works best instead of trying to engineer it politically, which is a huge failure now in the Western countries. Whereas China and India and Russia are moving forward with nuclear. They're all building multiple nuclear plants now, and they are staying with coal and gas for the main part of their electricity for the time being. There's no reason not to shift into more nuclear, though. It's a proven, cost-effective, reliable technology.
And by the way, the Sierra Club has endorsed that years ago. They endorsed nuclear power as an alternative clean energy. And what does it say about where this debate is at, that even the Sierra Club can't get an audience effectively with these people?
No, it's gone so far into la-la land as to how we're going to move forward. And you're right about all of this legislation that's in Congress now. Hopefully, this is a real wake-up call, what happened in Virginia and maybe even New Jersey, and even in New York, where a Democrat was elected, but he's someone who wants to build the police force back again. So I think there's a real groundswell happening. Finally, the pendulum has gone as far as it can go in the stupid direction, and will swing back now to a more sensible way of going forward. You just have to hope that, because this climate change thing is so phony. There's nothing to it. Yes, the world has warmed by 1 degree Celsius, nearly just about 2 degrees Fahrenheit in the last 300 years, and they make it out as if this is some kind of an apocalypse. It just isn't. It's a good thing that it's warmed a little bit. And one thing I notice is that it's the coldest countries, like my country of Canada, is all fanatical about stopping climate change, and so is Sweden. And these countries are the coldest countries in the world, and they're worried about it getting too hot. Whereas China, India, Brazil, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, you don't hear an awful lot coming out of them about how too hot it is. It's actually where most of the people in the world live, is in the warm countries. If you look at a map of the Earth showing the density of population by latitude, most of the people live in the tropics and subtropics, not in the cold parts of the world and now you can live here because we've got all this technology to keep us warm. So as long as you're in a warm house, you're not going to be too worried about the cold. But if you start relying on wind and solar so the electricity shuts down for 3 days at a time, it's not going to be so much fun to live in a cold country.
President Biden responded to the charge of hypocrisy, petitioning Saudi Arabia for more oil as he's diminishing oil production in this country, by essentially saying, hey, look, obviously we need fossil fuels in the short term as we're transitioning to a net zero carbon energy policy. And so it will take some time, but we're going to transition away from fossil fuels to clean energy. And that's why our goals for, net zero are 2050, 2070. How do you react?
Well, that's what they do. They make the goal so it's way after they're dead before you would get there. That's how they always work. And as far as the warnings go, it's always 10 years. If we don't do something in the next 10 years, the world will come to an end. And then people forget that they said that 10 years ago, and then they say it again 10 years later.
Yep.
We've got this guy, David Suzuki, here in Canada, who has done it 4 times. He's in his late 70s now, and 4 times he has said we've only 10 years left, and he just keeps bringing that same line out. And so the doomsday crowd is what we're dealing with here. And we've been dealing with the doomsday crowd since the beginning of time. They used to burn witches or throw virgins into volcanoes to try to change the weather and to try to make things good again. Nowadays, it's this cult of the climate. And They're saying that the world will actually come to an end, whatever on earth that looks like. And it never has happened. They've been making doomsday predictions for thousands of years, and it's never happened. They are batting zero. Why should we believe them now?
And the evidence
never ever come to pass.
And the evidence that
it's a,
I'm sorry, the evidence they present is just sort of the latest and greatest modeling. You had a Japanese physicist win the Nobel Prize for his climate modeling, and it turns out that his climate models were some of the most inaccurate of the models in his category. But it's just an ever-evolving modeling of what is going to happen. And again, as you say, there's no consequences for being wildly wrong. Is that about the gist of it?
Yes, it is. And why people think that computer models are a crystal ball, which is actually a mythical object. There is no crystal ball. You cannot predict the future of the world's climate. But judging by the past, you can more or less say that we are in a period now of relative stability in our climate. It's called the interglacial period. It's known with a real name, the Holocene. It's been lasting for about 10,000 years. And if things go the way they have for the last 2.5 million years in this Pleistocene ice age that we are in today, you see, this is the great irony. Anybody who wants to study this can find this out. It is colder now than it has been through nearly the entire history of life on Earth, and carbon dioxide is lower now than it has been, even with our increasing it somewhat. It's lower now than it has been through most of the history of life on Earth. For 250 years before this Pleistocene ice age, the world was warmer. Since the previous ice age, called the Karoo, which lasted for 100 million years. Look it up. It's on the internet. This is a cold period in the Earth's history. That's why both poles have giant ice caps on them. The polar bear, for example, wouldn't exist if it weren't for the fact that the world plunged into this cold period, because polar bears need ice to hunt seals on. There was no ice before 3 million years ago. It came as an ice age, and it's still with us, only we're in one of about 40 interglacial periods that have happened in the last 2.5 million years. So that's all you need to know. You don't need to know anything more than that, and that is absolutely a fact that this is the Pleistocene ice age, and we are in an interglacial period of the Pleistocene ice age, which is still colder than it has been for almost the entire history of life. So people are complaining it's too hot and the CO2 is too high when the exact opposite is the case.
He is Patrick Moore, co-founder of Greenpeace and author of the book Fake Invisible Catastrophes and Threats of Doom. Patrick, thanks as always for your insights. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. My book is number 2 in environmental ecology.
All right.
Oh, let's get it to number 1. All right.
You bet.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
24/7 managed IT services. If you run or own a small business, that may seem like something only the big corporations can afford, but that's simply not true. Turnkey can make IT resources happen for your business for an incredibly affordable price. You'll get the peace of mind of 24/7 managed IT services from Turnkey and eliminate the hourly fees others charge, which can add up fast. This is a proactive approach to data security that you need to keep your business going in today's remote workplace environment. Turnkey offers a security system that hunts threats in real time using real people right here in the Midwest for just pennies an hour. Experienced, certified professionals, not just a guy that comes out when things break. Turnkey, small business champions helping you use the tools of technology for smart business approaches. From IT services to consulting and marketing, contact Turnkey's professional problem solvers to help your business from 5 to 500 employees. Visit turnkey.pro. That's turnkey.pro.
And again, Patrick Moore's book is titled Fake Invisible Catastrophes and Threats of Doom.
All right. Great stocking stuffer.
It
Order
is.
it now.
It's an easy beach read, too. You should pick it up. You know what, Dan? We got to take him to number 1, all right? So if you're not first, you're last, Ricky Bobby. All right, Balance of Nature. Love it. Been taking it for a few years now. And I noticed one thing I forgot to tell you guys. I used to take B12 shots all the time, about once or twice a week. And now I don't have to because I'm taking Balance of Nature. What it is 6 capsules. You're getting 10 servings of 31 different fruits and veggies. You can't even buy 31 different fruits and vegetables. It would take a while. But that's where Balance of Nature comes in. They make it easy for you